Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, Turkish President Recep Erdogan admits his government's response to the disaster was too slow. But gift of the givers were quick off the mark. The aid group is in the country to provide relief to victims of the most powerful earthquake in nearly a century. It's already claimed over 15,000 lives, with that number set to rise. The organization is helping rescue efforts and providing medicine, food and blankets to those affected. Bringing us the very latest from Adana in Turkey is eNCA senior reporter Dasen Thathiah. Dasen, thank you very much for joining us. Very devastating, these twin earthquakes. But perhaps to start with just the weather conditions today and how difficult it's becoming for the search and rescue operations to navigate and reach some of those survivors, or even just be able to retrieve bodies.
Well, the weather conditions in Bundo have certainly played a role, and I think I'll just recap some of the journey that we've taken with the Gift of the Givers team since we got here. And it's been quite a challenge so far, because things need to move at an appropriate pace to ensure that everything is done properly. Remember, the team is working under the guidance of AFAD, which is here in Turkey. That agency, the Disaster Management Agency, communicates with the Gift of the Givers to talk about exactly where this help is needed. And right now we're finally on the move once more, despite the weather conditions last night, which unfortunately delayed the trip. It was both the weather conditions and the condition of the road, because this journey was meant to have been taken last night. The team members had unanimously decided that despite having traveled for 2 days, they wanted to continue that journey because they wanted to get closer to the areas that needed the help that this team is here to provide. So that journey is finally happening now. I'll also remind our viewers that logistically, if I think a layperson had to see exactly what goes on behind the scenes, they would wonder how it is done. Even just simply moving supplies and bags and getting all of the team members together takes a lot of time. But let me now bring in Dr. Kasim Borat. He is leading the team, particularly the team that we have in our bus here. Doc, I know it's been a completely difficult time, trying to manage all of this, but you're used to it. You're working with a team of professionals. I know that now that we're going to Thathiah, which is one of the badly affected areas, you already have a sense of what's in store there. Please share that with our viewers.
Thanks, Dasen. I think you summarized it well. Moving a ton of equipment, 33 people is challenging. We all got to bed late last night, 2 a.m. We had to be up early this morning. So we took that decision not to rush the journey. Safety at night of the team always comes. Safety is our number one priority for our team. Imtiaz always says that, he doesn't want martyrs on his team because they can't help anyone. We are here to help people. So I think, we're on our way finally to Thathiah. We had to get some local equipment, supplies. What's waiting for us in Thathiah, obviously, it's one of the provinces that's been worst hit by this devastating earthquake, and we're going to be in Thathiah city. We've arranged with AFAD, as you mentioned. They have a camp that they've set up for rescue teams. So we need to go register, set up our base camp within their camp, and then be deployed to areas that need our assistance.
It's a massive response. I know that they already have locally about 110,000 personnel that's working on this, more than 5,000 that have come internationally to also assist. So it's a massive operation, but they really need all the hands that they can get.
Yes, I think as much as there are that number of people here, if you look at the scale of the disaster, and we're still in the early stages, so I think we're going to see, unfortunately, numbers escalate in terms of casualties, displaced, and unfortunately deaths. So I think even though the response appears to be massive, I'm not sure we yet understanding the magnitude of the disaster. So we might still be under. So the more the better. And I think the Turkish government, AFAD, have been fantastic to facilitate us and teams getting to the areas in need. So I think we on our way now. We hope to start work today. So that's what our prayers are.
Okay, just a preview. So immediately when we arrive there, I know this journey is going to take a while, a couple of hours, depending on the roads as well. What are your immediate priorities as soon as we get off this vehicle?
So I think the first thing is to ensure we have a base camp that's conducive to what we need to do. We need to have storage for our equipment, power, internet access. We've got our communications team, so we need to set up a bit of logistics. While we're doing that, obviously we'll send out the team leaders of the search and rescue. With liaising with AFAD, they'll be able to identify areas that we can urgently intervene. And if those are identified, teams need to be deployed. Obviously in a safe manner, but teams need to be deployed, hoping that can happen today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bharat. Mfundo, I think I should also mention at this point, we've been watching some of the coverage with the other teams that have been working there. Those teams are working literally 24 hours flat out and hopefully on a rotational basis. But one of the other things that's very important here is that even though, as Dr. Bharat said, that number seems large, people ultimately, at the end of the day, are humans and they need rest. They also need rest to function properly. And there's a lot of work, a lot of physical work that is expected to be taking place when you get to those areas. And this is a very crucial time because a large focus is on trying to get as many people out alive as possible.
No, most certainly, but I'm sure you've also, since you arrived, been able to interact with other journalists, particularly those stationed there from the particular country in Turkey. Now, with some of the reports we're getting, we're understanding that there is social media issues because some were mobilizing for help on social media. Are they still able to actually reach each other insofar as social media mobilization is concerned?
Fortunately, there has been communication largely, which has been assisting this project and assisting the movement of people. You spoke about interacting with journalists, but not just that. We also had an opportunity to interact with some of the locals that were here, both at Istanbul as well as Adana. And those that we spoke to were telling us stories of their relatives and their friends that are living out to the south and the kind of damage that they experienced. Just a short while ago, when we left the accommodation where we were, I ran into a gentleman who was telling me that he had lost his whole family there. In fact, he was looking for money for food earlier on today. He was showing me some of the pictures of the damage and how their home had collapsed. And we've heard several stories like that. Another gentleman, even at a shop just outside the airport, was saying to us that his family, he was expecting his family to come to Istanbul because they needed a place to live. So there are a lot of people displaced. There's been a large focus on the death toll and on the recovery efforts, but we also shouldn't forget that beyond all of this, there is a lot of damage to livelihoods. There are also families that have been completely torn apart, and that is something that is going to last a lot longer than any of the rescue efforts and the work that is being done here.
Absolute destruction, Dasen. We'll unfortunately have to leave it there for now. That was eNCA senior reporter Dasen Thathiah, who is in Turkey for us today.